again?
Yes, let's do it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Righto. All right, so we've just finished up the second Signature Series Sportster. Giving it a spit shine today. It's Friday afternoon, so we're gonna chuck this thing in the van, go shoot a bunch of content at Justin from Pop Bang Classics place. He's just got a new digs. It's got a really cool rock wall, so we're gonna go get set up there and see what we can make. So a big part of making sure that we continue what we're doing and we have, work coming in the door is when we build a project that we're really proud of, something that's a little bit different, we always get out and make some content for it. I've always thought that there's not really much point in building these wild things if the right people don't get to see them. So that's part of the thing, it's all part of the way that we brand our garage, and to make sure that we're getting our projects in front of the right people who, hopefully will jump in, come into the shop, hit us up and see if we can build them a bike. So I'm just rocking up at Jussie's house. It's a Friday afternoon. We have a few beers in the van. Makes life at work a little bit easier, especially when your photographer's a bit of a legend. Hey, Brandon. Welcome to Justin's shop, where nothing is made after 1970, except Justin. Have a go at the antique ladder. I'm glad you're getting up that, not me. So I thought in episode 3, we better give you a bit of a chopper update. As mentioned, we've been insanely busy. I've been working on this thing after hours, on weekends, even if I can just scrape an hour or two to come in and put a bit of time on it, I have been. Where we left off last time, we just finished up the hardtail build, got all of that sorted. We didn't have the tank mounted, the front end wasn't on, none of that stuff was set up. We've got a placeholder 21-inch wheel. We're still waiting for our Johnish wheels to come through. They're getting specially made hubs and all that stuff. It's going to be a really trick part on this project, so worth the wait, I hope. I've fitted up these Mullins chain drive super narrow triple clamps, fabricated a small little bracket here, and modified our 4.5-inch flashpoint headlight to fit on the front. This little fairing that I've got covers in the back of that light. It'll make it super clean, lines up with this nice banana tank that we've mounted. I've always wanted to build a set of bars with just a single mounting point in the center, rather than having two bar clamps on either side. So I shopped around for a little while. I ended up finding this. It's a mountain bike gooseneck that I've modified and fabricated and smoothed out onto my top triple clamp here. This has been welded around the outside, also been welded on the inside with the slug. So this thing's super strong. We've got a set of Renthal fat bars in here off a downhill mountain bike. Something a bit kooky, but it's my bike, so I'll do what I like. Got the banana tank mounted up. This is a lowbrow custom setup that I bought. Had to modify it a bit to sit correctly on the frame. I wanted to sit low and level over the motor. So with the modifications that we did on the backbone, that enabled us to sit this tank exactly how I like it. Now, this setup. What I've done here is put a pivot point just behind the tank, and I wanted to suspend the seat. Never had a hardtail before. I'm worried about my cute little spine breaking, so I thought I'd soften out a little bit and at least put some suspension on the seat. With that came a bunch of challenges with making, firstly, something that worked, but I also wanted to make it look sick and fit the build. So what I started to do was shape up this seat pan. This is all custom made, so marked out and cut this seat section. An aluminium seat pan will get fixed down to this once it's upholstered. And then I had to work out a way to include a small seat shock but make it work neatly up against the frame and have the linkage to, you know, make sure this operated on the sort of correct radius between here and here. We had to put a 3-part linkage in. I've got one linkage that sits under the seat here. The rocker arm then actuates 2 of these arms that I've made here with a few eye-bar ends onto a small seat shock. Now, this seat shock, the spring rate on it was insanely hard. I had to go out to Justin's at Pop Bang Classics. He had a bunch of old springs, and I think these are some old like valve lifter car springs or something like that. But whatever they are, they do the job, and the seat can actually move now. So as this seat travels down, it pulls the rocker arm up and actions this shock absorber right here. Another really key piece of this project coming to life that I was really, really happy with. So another thing that I got busy with recently was my peg mounts, the suicide shift, and also the hydraulic clutch conversion. First up, I trimmed these cases, got rid of that big, ugly sort of spat that comes off here as like a chain guard. I didn't really want that there. That's gone. The case has been smoothed out and repaired in a few places. Where the old clutch cable went through, I've sort of cleaned and welded that up. After that, I've fabricated a small piece to weld onto the outside of the case here that'll house our hydraulic clutch slave cylinder. This will be actioned by a foot peg mount and master cylinder that's mounted up on here. So with these, I've got a matching one that's welded to the case on the other side. Another piece that took me way too long to do, but I had a heap of fun doing it, was this suicide shift. So never been able to make one of these before, it just hasn't come up in the shop. So I got busy on the lathe turning this down. What I did here was turn these shapes all round and then hand cut and finish them. Simple bit of 12mm stainless steel here that's been threaded, so this screws on and that will operate my shifter there. It'll be really good. I'm looking forward to learning how to ride a suicide shift bike, which will be an adventure in itself, I'm sure. The last thing that I'll run you through to catch up on the build is a few bits and pieces on the front here. Not something that you're gonna really notice straight off the bat. So I've built a small little coil mount here. Because of this tank, I'm gonna hide my black box up in here. We're running really low on room to hide, you know, all the bits and pieces on this thing. I did a custom engine mount. I sort of stole the idea off our signature series XS650. This engine mount on an XS650 is really, really ugly from stock. So I customized that, cut out the little shop logo there and placed that. And then I've also got a little bash plate, I guess you would call it here. This is simply to box in some more of my electric and be able to seamlessly link from the front there where it's all hidden to the back where I'll build the battery box. All right, now you guys are all caught up on the chopper build, we're gonna cut to our next work day. We'll get Donnie and myself on the tools on this chopper. We're gonna be going through the battery box build. I'm gonna try and detail the tank and also get the foot control. So we'll be linking up the hydraulic foot clutch and the hydraulic brake on the right-hand side of the bike. It's gonna take a bit of complex bracketry and stuff like that, so it could be a bit of fun to fabricate. Let's get into it. As promised, chopper work day. So it's a Friday, we're about to rip into a bunch of work. On today's list, we'll be getting Donnie to detail the tank with some nice like stainless steel bar work and also mounting up our front indicators. I'm gonna be working on the shit job, which is figuring out how the hydraulic clutch and hydraulic brake master cylinders are gonna work. So that means getting these Cognito Moto rear sets mounted up, and I've got myself a couple of Brembo master cylinders, figuring out the bracketry that we're gonna use to sort that out and try to potentially hide it underneath the cases here. Just gotta mock up these rear sets on there, so I'll be cutting the bolts just so I get a stud into the case. And then once I've got those set on here, I can figure out exactly how I'm gonna make it all work together. So I have to have this lever that operates a master cylinder underneath the case here, and then that cylinder will push hydraulic fluid into hydraulic clutch. It's gonna be a long day.
It's looking good. Nice and tidy, nice and tucked in. That's the setup we're running.
Right, so I've just figured out what I need to do with in regards to getting these master cylinders mounted up. I think like this sort of work on bikes for me is, I really enjoy doing this sort of stuff. It's not so much making the stuff because it's all quite simple. It's figuring out how you're going to make it actually function and sort of look good while you're doing it. So the Brembo master cylinder will get tucked just underneath our slave here. I've utilised this bottom engine bracket and then drilled and tapped another engine bracket here so we can start to use this to build our brackets off. So what I'm going to do is use these two plates to mount some bar work, and that bar work will come up and over to mount onto these here. So I'll mount this one up first, make sure I get it right and the spacing correct, and then I'll match this and then brace it together so it's nice and strong laterally, I guess you would call it, this way, and then we can weld it up and have that linked up into like an eyelet bar end there.
The die just in the bender,
yeah,
and then go from there.
Just do it by hand.
Yeah,
that'll be a good way to keep them uniform too.
We're using some 6mm stainless bar or rod. Yeah, it's just all going to be time, process of hand shaping until it looks good. So these are the tank slides made out of stainless steel 6mm bar. I've just been shaping up both of them just by hand and giving it a whack. So that's taken me a couple of hours to get identical ones, mirror image. And I'm just going to start tacking them up on each side of the tank here. See what it looks like. Good, or is that all right there?
So we just wrapped up the workday on the chop. We had people dropping in the shop all day, so I really didn't get as much done as what I wanted to, which is a pretty typical day here. But we've got the foot pegs mounted, we've got the master cylinders bracketry pretty well done, and Dylan's done a pretty nice job here on detailing the tank. So we've got a 6mm stainless steel bar here, it's been tacked on. I'm going to go ahead and I'll seal that in with some JB weld so we can body fill over it and mould it into the tank really nicely. And then there'll be another little bit that'll go around the tank cap here as well. That's probably going to put a nail in the episode. What we're going to do this Savo is get a bunch of our mates around. We've got about 6 finished bikes in the shop now, which doesn't happen very often. So we're going to get some mates around, have a few beers. It's a Friday arvo, and show them the builds that we've been putting out. So I guess I'll give you a quick run through on the stuff that we're just about to put out. A few weeks ago, we put out this XS650 that Donnie's given a little spit shine to. We've cleaned the shop because the boys are coming around. This thing has just been put out on pipe burn, and we've also been working on a bunch of these electric bikes. So we've got a KTM Freeride E and a Zero SR that we've just wrapped up. This is part of a new brand that we're launching called Grid Cycles. So you'll see a bit more on those coming out very soon. This one I'm really excited about. Version 2 of our Adventure Sportster. When I was building my Wide of the Mark bike, the guys came through and actually saw the build that I was doing for myself and decided to order one. So I took what I learnt for the Wide of the Mark bike, put it onto this machine and it's actually turned out really epic. I'm pretty jealous of this thing because it turned out a lot better than what my bike did. And then another one that a lot of people are excited about is this CBX 1000. We just finished this thing up. I took it for a test ride last week. I've got to do a few final bits and pieces and the final test ride, but this will be going down to Coffs Harbour next week to the owner. He's super excited. This thing is obviously a massive project for us. It's not often that you get the opportunity to work on a 6-cylinder bike, so something that was pretty rad for us. And then last, but definitely not least, the 72 Ironhead Sportster. This thing's been a bit of a weird job for us, but super happy to get to work on something really different for us. This thing's got a big 8-over front end on it, a set of chopper pipes, and we built a sissy bar too. This is for a guy that we know called Tyson, who's actually coming to check it out this afternoon and have a few beers with us. Let's go. This is the part where your favourite YouTuber is going to ask you to subscribe to their Patreon. Luckily for you, we're not YouTubers. We're bike builders and parts makers. So if you like the content we create and the bikes we build, or you hate both of those things and just want to grab some gear for your next project, make sure you show your support, jump on our online store and give your bike that Purpose Built Moto touch. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.